sorry I'm running a few minutes late.
Just a reminder, 2:30, we'll actually kick off around 2:40 at Nebraska on BTN. Next week, if you didn't see it, against Maryland at home, 11 a.m. Central Time. We'll start with an opening statement. If you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. Coach?
Coming off a bye week, really proud of the way that our guys handled last week. We invested in some developmental opportunities for our entire roster, but specifically our guys that haven't been seeing a ton of in-game reps, which was, an incredible opportunity for us as a coaching staff and our players to continue to improve and root into techniques and fundamentals, things that we'll need to continue to lean into as we move forward. Ramped up the second half of the week, we invested the entire week last week in Nebraska prep, but really got an opportunity as the week wore along to really get into more situational football in our Nebraska prep, and then had an opportunity to have a little bit of downtime over the weekend and hopefully use that to get our bodies back and continue to get as healthy as we can as we enter into to the second half of the season. But certainly excited about the opportunity that's ahead for us out in Lincoln. Facing a very well-coached football team, a team that, certainly is starting to find its rhythm with an adjustment at the quarterback position. Big, athletic, well-coached QB that, is starting to find some rhythm and, a defense that's playing at a really high level. So big challenge for us. Wouldn't want anything less, in Big Ten football, and excited for the challenge that's ahead of us.
Coach, two questions for you, mostly unrelated. Do you have an injury update on Ben Bryant, AJ Henning, and Jack Lausch?
Yeah, no, we anticipate that AJ will be good to go. AJ's been practicing, as is Jack. Ben continues to progress. Not sure exactly what his status will be come game time, but he is progressing and anticipate that that's something we'll continue to evaluate as the week goes along.
And then second, now 6 weeks ago, you coached your first Power 5 football game, your first game as a head coach. At the bye week, how do you think you've grown as a head coach in this first half of the season?
Oh my gosh, feel like I've grown exponentially, simply through having no other choice. This is where your greatest growth comes, is in situations of adversity and new trials, and certainly a lot of growth still left. But there's a great group around me, a great locker room of young men, and I've really tried to do my best to self-reflect, each and every day, each and every week on areas that I can continue to improve, and excited about where this group is at right now, but also know that there's a lot of work ahead if we want to achieve the things that we set out to this season.
Coach, when you guys go on the road to Lincoln, it's going to be a pretty big crowd, probably the biggest you guys have seen all season, and you coming from an FCS background, just kind of how do you feel like you guys are going to have to adjust to 80,000, 90,000 kind of raring down at you from?
Yeah, it all roots back into our practice prep, and that's something, even last week, we were pumping crowd noise into all our practices, an opportunity for us. Defensively, we don't anticipate that type of crowd noise when we're on the field, but opportunity for us to root into some of our nonverbal communication, getting everybody on the same page, and a great opportunity for our offense to prepare under the environment that they're going to be playing in on Saturday. One thing I will say is, in my time at North Dakota State, I saw in that dome 20,000 people right on top of you, the impact that can have on an offense. This is certainly at a larger stage, and with many more fans involved in that process. But that's something that Coach Bajaki and Coach Anderson, our offense, has done a great job of handling in our early days of prep, and we'll continue to put them in those stressful situations as we move towards Saturday.
You have a bye week about halfway through your first season as a head coach. Did you take some time to assess how you've performed, and what kind of grade would you give yourself so far?
Oh, shoot. I don't know if it's my job to give myself a grade, but what I will say is it took an opportunity to evaluate where we're at in recruiting. Really excited where we're at with this class, the commitments that we've held on to, and the commitments that we've gained here, over the course of the last few weeks. Took it as an opportunity to really, dive into self-scout both offensively and defensively, and identify where we have some tendencies and some things that we need to, view ourselves how our opponents are viewing us. And then, took an opportunity to, spend quality time with our players over the course of the week and, just check in and continue to develop our youth. But, I know there's a lot of room left for my own personal growth, just as there is for our entire football team. And that's what's so neat about a bye week. You get to take a deep breath, look at yourself in the mirror, take full ownership where you're at, and, kind of set the course for how we're going to move forward.
Coach Heinrich Harburg, since taking over Nebraska, has really shown this dual quarterback ability, has over 400 yards rushing. What do you have to do to stop him on the ground on Saturday?
Gosh, you got to play with great leverage and you got to tackle. I know that's oversimplified, but when you don't do that, he has the ability to be extremely explosive, has the ability to run through arm tackles, and when you lose leverage, I mean, he'll turn it into a touchdown on you. I've been really impressed with his ability to operate within the scheme and within the system, and it creates some, you talk about +1 football. When he's carrying the ball, you better use every hat you got.
And just to follow up, does having game experience against a quarterback like Riley Leonard, a mobile quarterback, help going into this game?
I think it does. I think there's some things that, we look back on. I look back on specifically in terms of the way that the game was called from a defensive coordinator standpoint, from my standpoint, that, I wish I had some calls back. So you take that information, you move forward accordingly. But there is nothing, more scary to a defensive play caller than a young man that operates the offense at a high level, has the ability to be utilized in +1 run game, and has the ability to extend plays and take off with his feet when the things break down in the passing game. And to Nebraska's credits, they've really started to find a rhythm there.
Coach, has there been an update on Richie Hagerty, and how do you feel? What's your confidence level in your defensive line to hold up against a Nebraska team that has made its bread and butter on running the ball?
Yeah, no, we anticipate that Richie will play. In terms of our confidence in our defensive line, when we've been at our best defensively this year, we've controlled the line of scrimmage, we've created knockback, we've been urgent to get off of blocks, and when our guys play with that demeanor up front, good things happen for us defensively. That's certainly the expectation. It has been the expectation, will be the expectation moving forward. I think it's a great opportunity for our guys to challenge themselves against a Nebraska team that's certainly going to look to establish a run game, and if we're not able to stop the run, it's going to be a long day for us.
Coach, when you guys played Howard and Brendan Sullivan was under center, not really a ton of run-pass balance, very favored toward the ground. If Sullivan is the starter on Saturday, how do you guys kind of plan to create more confusion for offenses and, I guess, build less off of the run game and be a little more balanced?
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to just creating balance, staying ahead of the sticks, and I think so much that really comes down to, something that I've challenged our entire team on is our pre-snap procedure. And the things that we can control, or whether that's defensively, all 11 being on the same page, or offensively, making sure that, from communication to the sideline, to our team, to our pre-snap procedure, to make sure that, everything is perfect before the snap of the football. Offensively, when we stay ahead of the chains, I think naturally some of that balance that we're all looking for naturally happens. When you avoid 2nd and 12, 3rd and 11, naturally there's just more balance, and it's more difficult to call a defense in those situations. I think when that consistently happens, you'll see that. And when you go back and study the Howard film, in our drives where we stayed ahead of the chains, really good things happen. When we found ways to hurt ourselves through penalties or negative plays, TFLs, sacks, it was hard for us to catch our rhythm.
Coach, you talked about closing out games after the Howard game, right? And I feel like you just touched on it there with shooting yourselves in the foot, right? How do you get out to that lead but hold that lead, especially in an outside environment like Nebraska?
That's a great question. I think it really comes down to our level of focus and our level of urgency in everything that we're doing. And it's easy to say those things. How are we embodying that in our practice habits? How are we embodying that in a meeting environment? How am I embodying that in terms of the way that I carry myself as the head coach, whether it be on the sideline or at halftime or carrying over into the 3rd and 4th quarter? I mean, you could see it very, very plainly on Friday with, Colorado, Stanford. Colorado, very good football team that's playing at a high level, jumps out to a big lead in the first half, isn't able to close out. I mean, it can happen in all areas of college football, and it's just something that, got to continue to challenge myself and our entire team to approach every opportunity, whether it be practice, meetings, or game day, with just a certain level of urgency and focus on all the details.
Coach, you've talked a lot this season about writing your own story as a team. To you thus far through 6 games, what have the themes of this story been?
I think it's been a resilient group, a group that's continued to, pour into one another and care for one another. And I think it's a group that, understands that, the people that they've worked so hard with over the course of the off season, over the course of the summer, over the course of fall camp, over the course of ups and downs along the first half of this season. Those are the people that they need to continue to pour into. And, I've really challenged the group entering into the second half. All the goals and aspirations that this group has for themselves, the story that they hope to write, all that's still right in front of them. And now this is an opportunity as we enter into the second half, specifically the third quarter, to go set the stage for the things that will be ahead of us in the second half of the season.
Coach, what do you feel like is the beauty of the second half of the season, or what's the difference between starting the season versus getting that bye week and now into it?
I think it's an opportunity for us to, reflect back on what we've experienced, take full ownership in the things that, we need to continue to build off of that have been positives, but also challenge ourselves in areas where we need to improve. Speaking to some of the questions of evaluating myself, what a great opportunity for me to continue to improve on, my clock management, my communication with our staff, continuing to hone in on some of the details that need to happen with me calling the defense and being the head coach. Same thing for our players. The beauty of it is we get to look back, take full ownership in where we're at, and then set the course moving forward. I think you have a group that's really hungry, really excited, and eager to attack this week of practice.
Coach, you brought up the ability to recruit over the bye week. Seems like the team has really started to hit its stride in that aspect. Got commitments from Tito Williams and Aiden Newbill a couple weeks ago. What do you think has started to help the team kind of pick back up the momentum on that front again?
We talk about telling a story. At the end of the day, recruiting is presenting a story, and just giving young men and their families thorough information. And I think the story that exists here at Northwestern is a really special story to tell. It's some of the best academics a young man could find, a degree that has an opportunity to set a young man up for the rest of his life, playing in the Big Ten, doing that within incredible facilities surrounded by a bunch of coaches that are going to pour into you in a developmental program. I think there's a story to tell there. And I think what you're seeing is young men and their families realizing that even though there's a certain level of uncertainty, we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the things that we can, continue to commit to here at Northwestern. And that's an opportunity to play in the Big Ten and an opportunity to do it at one of the best institutions you can find.
Coach, obviously Coach Rule went into a very similar situation you at Baylor when he got there. Have you guys had a chance to speak about those kind of adversities that you've both faced as head coaches?
We haven't, but tremendous amount of respect for Coach Rule and the way that he built that program up at Baylor. And, I've observed him from afar for a long time. Tremendous amount of respect for the way that he, coaches the game, mentors young men, and knows how to build a program.
Coach Xander Mueller has kind of been a big playmaker for your defense this year. He leads you guys tackles for loss, sacks, and also tied for the lead in interceptions. What can you say about his play and just kind of the linebacker position, being a focal point and creating some havoc on defense?
I just, I'll start by saying I just love the way that young man approaches practice. I mean, the energy he brings every single day. There's a consistency there. There's a focus there. And, we've talked about ownership here multiple times over the course of the last few minutes. Xander Mueller is someone that fully embraces and invites coaching. A lot of that growth that we've seen out of Xander is the fact that, he's taken coaching from Coach McGargle. He's accepted that. He's invited that. He's taken full ownership on things that he needs to improve within his game. And it's pretty fun to see that showing up in the production we've seen out of him this year.
Coach, people have asked about the run game and how you're going to approach Nebraska's run game. Is there the bye week gives the team a chance to recuperate, right? Is that even more important to let the bodies recuperate, especially when it's going to be a run game where there's going to be even more emphasis on the body?
Absolutely. You know, we tried to find this really healthy balance between continuing to push and improve and prepare for Nebraska, but while also giving our guys, you know, ample time to recover and get their bodies back. I really feel like in our planning we were able to accomplish that, and it's pretty excited to get back to practice today and tomorrow and ramp this thing back up. But at the end of the day, you know, Nebraska specifically defensively has done some incredible things in stressing their opponents, and you know, really excited about the plan that Coach Bajaki and Coach Anderson and the rest of that offensive staff is putting together for our guys.
Coach, going back to recruiting for a little bit, how have you handled that added workload? Again, you're coming in with so much to do on the field as an interim. Now you have off the field, and of course you have recruiting experience as a defensive coordinator. But moving up to a Power 5 level, how have you handled that added workload and doing it as an interim?
You know, it just leaned into relationships, genuine relationships, and at the end of the day, you know, gonna bust my tail, put every fiber of my being into, you know, supporting our current players, serving our current players, and putting them at the forefront of all our decision making, while also making sure that I'm being a great steward of this program. And you know, how do you do that? You identify, you know, young men across the country that you feel fit the profile here at Northwestern, that love football, that value a Northwestern degree, that you feel like, you know, in due time can be developed into great Big Ten football players, and then you tell a story. But a story of truth, what truly exists here. And, you know, we're doing that through genuine relationships. We're doing that through, you know, just telling them the truth of what this looks like moving forward. And clearly you're starting to see a bunch of young men and their families, you know, deem that as something that they want to be a part of moving forward.
Coach, just to follow up on Matt's question, what is your message to recruits about, because you don't even know what your stats will be here when they enroll in the university next year. What do you tell these recruits to say that the people who recruit them will be here whether or not they get here?
It's the same thing that, you know, my wife and I have committed to, that, and the same thing that we tell our players, you know, control the controllables. You know, what do you know? Well, Northwestern offers one of the best degrees somebody can find. We're playing in the Big Ten. This program has been rooted in the holistic development and mentoring of young men, you know, as far as we can remember. You know, certainly trust that that's going to be the case moving forward. And, you know, whoever holds this position as head coach moving forward, those are things that you can count on. And if you know, young men and their families want to come back with more direct, you know, questions for me, you know, in terms of my status, I just continue to tell them I'm going to focus on the things I can control, and that's supporting our players, serving our players, and busting my tail to make sure that we have an opportunity to write the story that we've continued to talk about.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, everyone.